OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, recently came out with a special research report that talks about hallucinations and what we can do to better address this within AI in general. This was released on September 5th, 2025 on their website, and it was simply titled Why Language Models Hallucinate. This is a research paper and again put out specifically by OpenAI, and they go through and give us some direct information as to what's going on so that we can better understand why actual hallucinations occur. The big conclusion here is that hallucinations need not be mysterious. They originate simply as errors in binary classification. If incorrect statements cannot be distinguished from facts, then hallucinations in pre-trained language models will arise through natural statistical pressure. It goes on to describe how this is brought out in the training of the models themselves. They express this by saying that as an analogy, consider the following context where humans also occasionally fabricate plausible sounding information. The example they show is an academic example, which is great, that students may guess on multiple choice exams and even bluff on written exams, submitting plausible answers in which they have little confidence. Guessing when unsure maximizes expected score under a binary 0-1 scheme that awards 1 point for a correct answer and none for blanks or I don't know. That makes a lot of sense. Many language model benchmarks mirror standardized human exams using binary metrics such as accuracy or pass rate. Optimizing models for these benchmarks may therefore foster hallucinations. Language models are primarily evaluated using exams that penalize uncertainty. Therefore, they are always in test-taking mode. That's a powerful conclusion there, and it makes a lot of sense in that the way that we are measuring how good a model is how many right answers it gives us. And of course, you have a greater chance of scoring a correct answer if when you're not sure, you guess. Just like when we take tests, right? If it's a multiple choice test, well, you have a 1 in 5 shot, so might as well say something. Whereas if you're not sure and on a test, depending on the test, you can't say, well, I'm not sure. So it would make more sense to at least try and give an answer. And then maybe you're right. So that what they're talking about is that, yeah, because of the way that it's trained, because of the way that it is also reinforced, the AI sees that, yeah, it makes more sense for me to at least guess on an answer because there is a chance that I could be right. That's really powerful stuff and helps us to better understand what's going on when it does hallucinate. So it goes on to state that they've observed that primary evaluations overwhelmingly penalize uncertainty, and thus the root problem is the abundance of evaluations that are not aligned. That makes a lot of sense. So here they're talking about that the numerous primary evaluations must be adjusted to stop penalizing extensions when uncertain. They go on to explain different statistical aspects of what's going on with that, and then they also add additional factors, meaning computational hardness when a question is simply too hard to answer. Yeah, I don't know would be a valid answer for a question that doesn't have a real answer, but that's an additional factor that it doesn't necessarily have that option. Distribution shift in that training and test data distributions sometimes diverge. And then the big one here is garbage in, garbage out. If it's trained on bad information that is all over the place, well then yeah, it's going to create more hallucinations and more incorrect answers. So that's a big one. Specifically in talking about the post-training and hallucinations, they say that it is very difficult to address this. And a big aspect of this is the reinforcement in that binary evaluations of large language models impose a false right-wrong dichotomy, award no credit to answers that express uncertainty or omit dubious details or request clarification. And that's so true when we're talking about the leaderboards dealing with, well, which AI has less hallucinations. There's all sorts of different metrics for hallucinations, whether it's a correct answer or wrong answer, it's made up information, partial credit for partial information. So there's a lot going on there with what we're really looking at when we're talking about hallucinations. So I think that goes a long way to trying to identify how we can address this by thinking about hallucinations differently as far as, okay, if we can alter the model so that it doesn't give us this chance information or an attempt, but tells us when it's doing that, well, then that could be a game changer as far as understanding when is it hallucinating and when it isn't. So one of the recommendations that they propose to have explicit confidence targets. So the AI then would have a confidence target in when it's giving the information. Along with that, it could also be instructed to ask questions, to pose questions when it needs more direction in trying to answer whatever is posed to it. So that's a real interesting recommendation, right? If an AI is giving you information, we have to realize that it's doing prediction, right? And it's much more complicated than simple one word prediction. It's doing predictions way out into many, many words. It's beyond our comprehension as far as how we're predicting. Because we can predict one word, we can predict some sentences, but to go out the way that AI does it is very complex. But that's what it's doing. It's doing these predictions. So if the correct answer does exist within its training data, but it only exists sort of once or twice, and it's not very high in the prediction of what would come next, then it might not be able to take that information and put it in there. So when it decides, oh, okay, I'm not sure, so I'm going to guess on the answer, it would be great if, yeah, the AI could come out and say, I don't know for sure, but here's my prediction, and I am 50% sure that this is correct. Right? That would be something really powerful that would help whenever we are doing some type of research or we're asking it some type of complex question and we want a real full answer. The fact that it doesn't know, that would be okay as long as we would know that, hey, it doesn't know. So either it says, I don't know, but even better would be, I don't know, but here's my answer based off of 50% correctness. So very powerful as far as this paper, because it explains a lot as to why hallucinations occur. And it talks about some possible, not solutions to get rid of hallucinations completely, but some additional things that we can do to help address this and make it so that when hallucinations do occur, it still is beneficial to us as the user, the reader, the viewer, so that we don't get deceived, we don't get any deception that occurs from that hallucination, because that means that it can give us information that's confidently incorrect, and we want to avoid that. So that's powerful information that it gives us. But I also wanted to share that there are things that we can do right now to help address hallucinations that occur with AI on our own level. So the information that OpenAI came out with this research report is great. It's one step forward to helping to really reduce hallucinations in general. It's going to take a while to fully address that, but there are things we can do right now to help with minimizing hallucinations, as well as the occurrence of hallucinations, as well as the impact of hallucinations when we interact with it personally. So here are a couple of different things that we can do to help address this. The very first one is to develop AI literacy. Why? Because this equals critical evaluation of the results. Remember, that's an important aspect in itself of AI literacy, is that we are critically evaluating, right? We have that in different aspects of AI literacy, but specifically within the critical thinking component of AI literacy. Remember the four components, that's a big one. Critical thinking is that we critically analyze all the results. And we know that. We know that as someone that is literate in AI, we know that that's something that we should always be doing. Now, it's important for us to understand that this is a key aspect of interacting with AI in the same way that it is in interacting with a subject matter expert. In reality, when we're talking to somebody that, let's say, it has a PhD in something, is a subject matter expert, is a world-renowned researcher, we should always still verify what they're saying. They're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. The AI isn't perfect. The humans aren't perfect. So when someone says something and gives us a result, gives us information, great. That gives us a lot of information, a lot of data to work with, but we should still verify. That is what critical analysis is. That's the way that we should always be looking at any type of digital information or regular information in general. That's part of critical thinking, is that we verify. We have it go through our minds as well. We're thinking, does this look like what it should be? Does this make sense in general? Now I can get some specifics. So that is really powerful in that we have AI literacy. Now, these other recommendations are just aspects of AI literacy, but they're key components that have to be stressed for ourselves as well as for our students in order to help minimize and mitigate hallucinations that could occur. Another one is to require good sources to assist with result verification. So remember, we just said that we're going to verify, that's part of critical evaluation. So we can say something within our prompt itself, such as at the very end, we simply say, provide usable links to the sources used to answer this question. By saying that, now I can go in and easily verify the information because I told it, give me sources. Give me sources of where you got this info so that I can verify. So if I put that, I simply put that at the end of my prompt, well, now it'll give me those sources for sure. Now, some AIs are already doing that in some ways where they give you some sources, but now by me purposely doing that, I'll for sure have those resources so I can verify. Another great one here is to ask better structured questions. So this deals with prompt engineering. This is an aspect of our capability within AI literacy. So we can do something where we can get better results with less hallucinations by asking a better question, such as, please assume the role of a university researcher. Using only academic sources, answer the following question or questions. From that, we'll get better results. Why will we get better results? Because we're using an advanced prompt formula, that's prompt engineering, and we're giving it specific context. We're giving it some specific directions as to, hey, we want this higher level of information from this perspective. Additionally, we want you to use these type of better sources, meaning academic sources. So that will help to mitigate some randomness from its pre-trained information, and it'll give us better information overall. Now, additionally, what you can do, again, part of the prompt itself, this is advanced prompt utilization here, is at the very end to say something like, do you need any other information from me to give me the best result possible? So we're giving it the opportunity to ask us questions. By doing that, this helps to eliminate maybe some aspect of what they don't understand from the question, so they're just guessing and filling things in when that isn't what we wanted. So by giving the AI that opportunity, that'll help to clear away any misconceptions so that, again, we can get the best result possible. So once again, that the issue here is being better able to use the AI, which is AI literacy, which is advanced prompt formula, prompt engineering. Another great one here is to use better interaction techniques. There are many ways that you can interact with the AI. A lot of us simply take out our cell phone and talk into it. Some of us use our laptops, some of us use all sorts of different things, right? The key is that if you want the very best information, well, then you should probably try to limit what the AI is using for information, as well as to provide the best sources of information. So you can do this in a couple different ways. One way is simply that when you ask the question, you put sources of information based off of this research report, based off of these research articles. So now you're feeding that, you're uploading that to the AI as an attachment to the actual prompt itself. So you simply add to it, there it is, and now you specifically say that within your prompt, hey, based off of these sources of information, answer these questions for me. And then now you can have this conversation, this chat session that's directly dealing with that sources of information. And you know that those are correct academic high level resources that have the information in general, what you're looking for. Now you can get it more specifically by using that as part of your prompt. So that's one way, let's say using ChatGPT. In a similar way, you can use something like Gemini, all the other ones, Groks. It allows you to upload the content. But with Google, they have a special tool also that is the Notebook LM. So this allows you to upload a lot of different sources, whether that's documents in very different forms, even video, where you can put that in there so you can have a nice, huge resource and then say, okay, based off of this resource that I have, dealing with this information, now answer my questions. So now we're controlling it better. So yes, it's still using pre-trained information in order to better understand the language and the interaction, but it's using primary sources that you're providing it in order to give you the best answer possible. So this will help to reduce some of the hallucinations and also to better give you the answer that you're looking for. And the final one here is to be a subject matter expert in order to be able to distinguish correct from incorrect. That one kind of goes without saying, but it's something that has to be repeated again and again, especially for younger people growing up that are facing some real challenges in academia because they're worried as far as, hey, is AI going to take my job? Are there going to be jobs available in the future? That type of thing. And so we have a lot of students that are kind of zoning out a bit and thinking that since AI is getting so smart, it can answer all the questions. So I don't need to learn anything. I can just turn to the AI to do all my thinking for me. That's very problematic because, as we know, hallucinations still occur. And also, even asking the proper question, that still deals with how smart you are as an individual. You have to ask the right question to get the best result, just like we talked about here with prompt engineering. But even then, when we get the result, we need to be able to critically analyze it and understand it. So if we're not that subject matter expert, we might not know what right even looks like. So that's why it's really important to continue to develop our own cognitive capabilities so that we can better understand the results, so that we can better see whether, hey, is this some sort of deception? Is this not right? Is this a hallucination? Us being those subject matter experts, it becomes very important. Okay, so here are all the recommendations for us to think about, to use. Again, this is to help minimize some of the impacts that hallucinations could happen to us, in that this helps to reduce the impact and reduce the occurrence of it overall. So this was a great paper by OpenAI. I think this helps us get further towards eliminating hallucinations. It's one more step as we continue to reduce those occurrences. The models are getting better, but again, this is still an issue that we have to continue to address. So that's why it's important that we use these mitigation techniques in order to have the best interaction with AI. We need to understand this as academics so that we can better train our students so that they can be very powerful, have lots of agency, and be able to succeed in the workforce, in research, in other organizations. This is an important skill that they have to continue to develop, just like we continue to develop it as well. Very interested in your thoughts on this. Would love to have discussions, so please share your comments in the message section in the comment area. I respond to everything. This way we can learn from one another. And remember, learning is for life. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you continuing to watch, continuing to subscribe, like, and share. That's the only way we can continue to grow and be able to interact with one another, learn from one another, and continue to have these improvements to our understanding and the way that we use AI for teaching and learning, as well as in everything else. Thank you. Bye-bye.